So the Raccoon City incident was something that nobody could have stopped, with the many factors brewing in the background that finally caused the outbreak, leaving the many citizens completely unprepared for the upcoming T-virus infestation. But the surviving STARS members from Resident Evil 1 knew exactly what they were up against, but in the end, each went their own separate ways for the time being in the main storyline. So in this video, we'll play a what if scenario what would have happened if the STARS members never disbanded during the events of Resident Evil 3, and decided to face the Raccoon City incident head on. Which these members included Chris Redfield, Barry Burton, Rebecca Chambers, Brad Vickers, and last but not least, Jill Valentine. Anyways, before we do get started with the video, I just want to say my name is DeVuH, and I do cover a lot of Resident Evil and The Last of Us content on my channel. So if you guys are interested in that type of content, then please feel free to like and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this in the future, and maybe adding me on Instagram, where you can message me there directly at any time. Anyways, in the original storyline, we knew that after the events of RE1, the remaining STARS members went out to let everyone know about what has happened in the Arklay Mountains, telling their fellow police officers, to civilians, and even Chief Irons. But in the end, their call for help wasn't taken lightly by the public, with Chief Irons collaborating with Umbrella this whole time, making sure to silence the STARS members' accusation against this corporation. Also, there was so much skepticism about their tales inside the Spencer mansion, and since many people in Raccoon City was employed by Umbrella, it seemed almost impossible for anyone to listen to their pleas. Also, their eventual disbandment didn't help with their credibility, so each member had to plan their own way of taking down Umbrella, except for Brad Vickers, who is known as Chicken Heart, and decided to play it safe and didn't really go out of his way to inform anyone of what happened during Resident Evil 1. So with that out of the way, we knew the eventual fall of Raccoon City would happen, and Chris Redfield, Barry Burton, and the other members started to go their separate ways for the time being, which would follow the original storyline that we know so far. But here's where we diverge from the original plot and start our what if scenario, where we can start with Chris Redfield staying behind with Jill during the events of Resident Evil 3, where he would help take down Nemesis and possibly save Brad from his ambush. Also, maybe we could have seen a team of Brad, Barry, and Rebecca, with each of the three having some type of specialty that they can use to mitigate some of the monsters that they would be facing during the outbreak, with Barry being the main front point gunsman, while Rebecca still retained her role as a medic, and Brad would be their main transportation specialist, who would help them navigate around the ruins of Raccoon City. Which actually really sounds awesome while we're talking about it, because just imagine we had some type of squad in Resident Evil 3 Remake where we can use some of our favorite STARS members and utilize their specialties. Anyways, back on point, so since we do have some type of idea as to what kind of roles each of the STARS members would play, so that means that the overall storyline could actually play much more different compared to the original with some of the actions that these individuals can make. For example, even if they were shunned by the many citizens of Raccoon City initially prior to the outbreak, what if they still kept on persisting on and eventually proved their point once more and more evidence of zombies and monsters started to buzz around the city, because the mainstream media in Raccoon City wouldn't be able to suppress their truth for much longer, which could in turn help much more people try to escape while they can. Also, the presence of the STARS team during the middle of the outbreak would help out the rest of the police force be much more organized, and they could also show them how to take down some of the zombies and monsters, because remember that Brad mentioned that the police weren't trained for a situation like they're dealing with in Raccoon City, so who better to train the police force or at least get them prepared? With the STARS members' encounters and battle experience from the Spencer Mansion will definitely be valuable information for the rest of the survivors. This would also help with the chaos that ensued during the original storyline as well, because remember that once the outbreak started to hit critical levels, mass panic ensued, and a lot of the citizens started to make their way towards the RPD station, thinking of it as a safe haven from all the chaos that is happening in the city, which Resident Evil 2 Remake touched on, with the citywide intercom blasting outside, letting everyone know to make their way towards the police department for shelter.
Medical supplies will be provided to everyone in need.
Oh my god, this is so unreal.
So with the STARS team being around, we can see Rebecca and Brad try to organize the people going into the police station, while Jill, Chris, and Barry try to hold their ground alongside their fellow police officers and try to push back the hordes of zombies. Also, the STARS members' experience of fighting against the many BOWs from the Spencer Mansion would also help as well, because remember that Umbrella sent Nemesis to get rid of the remaining STARS members, and Jill had a tough time dealing with this tyrant during the course of Resident Evil 3. So with the presence of Chris, Barry, and Rebecca alongside her, it would be a much easier task for them to take down Nemesis. But the possibility of Brad still dying is very high due to his tendencies to run away and get himself in trouble. Also, another big story point that could also change is the plot of Jill being infected with the T-virus by Nemesis, because if the STARS members were there to support her, the chance of her getting infected would be slim to none, which in turn could change a big course in the history of Resident Evil 5, because Wesker during that time found out about Jill's infection to the T-virus and saw her antibodies to the viral strain, and used that aspect of the antibodies for his research into the Ouroboros. So that would be a significant plot change that would affect the overall theme of a game that happens years after the Raccoon City incident. Also, since Jill will not be infected by Nemesis during the Clock Tower boss fight, then we wouldn't have that time skip where she was unconscious for that whole day, which could allow the meeting of Leon and Claire with the other STARS members to happen, which would now allow their group to handle a much bigger threat than they could have individually, because remember, Resident Evil 2 happens in between the time of Resident Evil 3, so if they somehow had to go up against the many T-103 model tyrants like Mr. X or a fully mutated William Birkin, then at least they would have a great fighting chance having so much combat experience within this group of survivors. But overall, could the STARS members prevent the eventual wiping of Raccoon City? Probably not, but I'm sure the casualties could have been much less. Also, the events of Code Veronica would have never happened as well, since Claire finally met up with her brother, so there wouldn't be a reason for her to infiltrate the Umbrella headquarters. Also, there could be a possibility of both Leon and Claire not meeting their respective partners from Resident Evil 2, which included both Sherry Birkin and Ada Wong. So all in all, the presence of the STARS members would help out the remaining surviving citizens of Raccoon City during the outbreak, being that voice of hope and organization that was lacking from the original plot. So if we do get a potential Resident Evil 3 remake in the future, wouldn't it be interesting to see Capcom retcon certain aspects to the story to include some of these remaining STARS members in RE3 Remake? Because remember that we didn't get to see Zombie Brad in Resident Evil 2 Remake, which I thought was an interesting aspect, because we knew he was killed by Nemesis prior to the events of RE2, so what if they allow him to live for an extended time, and would collaborate with the other STARS members during this time as well, for sure changing things up for Resident Evil 3 Remake, which could give us a fresh but yet familiar take compared to the classic RE3. Anyways, what do you guys think about my what if scenario of the STARS members staying behind during the events of Resident Evil 3? And what other significant changes could they have made if they planned it out differently compared to the original plot? Please let me know and why on the comment section down below. Also on a quick note, this whole what if scenario stemmed from one of the commenters from one of my videos, where he gave the idea of Chris staying behind to help out Jill during the events of RE3. So thank you brother for the great video topic, and I hope to hear more from the many other Resident Evil fans who enjoy my videos. So if you guys did enjoy this content, then please don't forget to hit that notification bell icon or liking and subscribing to my channel, which really does help out a lot to help grow this channel overall. Anyways, lastly, I just want to say thank you guys so much for supporting my videos, and as always, you guys have a great rest of your day, and this is Hey DeVuH, signing out.